Hi everyone, my name is Lori, my nickname is Reenie, and I'd like to welcome you to Reenie Bobini Creations. If this is the first time you've popped by to check out my channel, welcome. I do hope you like what you see. If you do, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing and sharing with your fellow crafters. If you've been to see me before and you're back, I'm so grateful that you are. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you would. And of course, share with your fellow crafters. So for today's craft, we're doing a lantern using dollar store items, and it's super easy and I love the outcome of it. I'm going with sort of a beachy nautical theme, but just by changing up the colors or the techniques a little bit, you can make it to fit any decor style. And like I said, the outcome is cute and it was really easy. So let me stop yakking at you and we'll get on with the crafting. Okay, so for today's craft, we're going to start. We actually need two of these. I've already kind of taken the other one apart, but that's what we're going to do. Now you can find these at all the dollar stores. Sometimes they have embellishments, sometimes they don't. If you can get the ones without, get those ones because we're just going to take them off. So I'm going to start, I'll take the sticker off, and all this comes off super easy, so there's not much to it. Even the sticker came off pretty easily without leaving a lot of leftovers. So yeah, we're just going to dismantle it. We're going to take the hanger off. We're going to take those flowers out. Peel the stickers off. And like I said, for the most part, they come off fairly easily. Okay, so now it's all dismantled, and that's sort of what you should be left with two of these. And then I've got these four. Now I found these at the Dollarama. There were, I think, 3 different sizes, sets of 4 in there. This one's going to work just fine for the size I'm doing. If you've got bigger ones, just find the one that works best. And then I've got this paint. I'm just going to paint these because I think it's close enough actually for the finish we're doing at the end. If your frame doesn't match, or depending on what color you want to do, you can paint them both, but I think this is going to be close enough. I'll see when it's done whether I'm happy with it, because we are going to go over top of it with a white and a gray, so the color's only sort of going to peek through, so it doesn't have to be a stellar match, I guess. So just that acrylic paint, and this one, yeah, this is the one from the Dollarama. And I'm just going to give these a coat of paint. It doesn't have to be fantastic coverage because we're going to do kind of layers of paint to give it sort of an old aged look. So you want a decent coverage, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to do this to all 4 of them. And then when those are dry, I'll just make sure once they're dry there's no big patches or anything I've missed. It's not necessary to do the ends. Once they're dry, I'm going to come back in and go over them in a white. And you can kind of see on this one, I'm not too worried about the bottom. We are going to go over it with the white anyway. So that will be our next step. We're just going to cover the whole thing with another coat, with this one being the white paint. And then at the end, we will do the sanding technique to sort of age it and antique it and make it look weathered. So just go straight over top. I imagine I'll probably be doing 2 coats of the white paint. And again, the coverage doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want, a decent coat on there. And the bottom, I am going to paint it, but most of it will be covered at the end anyway, and you're not going to see it a lot. But you do want to give it a nice a decent coat anyway, just to make sure it looks like a good finished product. So I'm going to do that to all of these pieces, and I'm going to paint 6 of the skewers in the white as well. So we'll get those all painted up, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Okay, so they've all had a base coat of that turquoise color, and now they've got a coat of the white, and you can see it's not perfect coverage, but we don't need it to be. But I think I said you need to paint the bottom of the little plaques. You do on one. I don't know what I was thinking when I said that. So yeah, the one you don't need to. So one we've left, the other one you do need to. So same kind of thing, right? Just the base coat in the teal and then an overcoat of the white. So now what we're gonna do, this one's still a bit wet. Now it doesn't honestly matter what grit of sandpaper you use. This happens to be 80, but it was just what I had in my stash. So now we're going to age them a bit, make them look like they've been out in the weather. And to start doing that, we're just gonna take some sandpaper, and this is total preference. So as much or as little as you want to take off. And if you take too much off and you wish you hadn't, you can always go back over it again. So not a biggie, but just how much you think you would like to have off, how weathered you would like. And we do have one more step for the weathering when this part's done too. So I'm going to do this to all the pieces except for the skewers, just because they'd be a bit of a pain and I don't think it would show that much anyway. So I'm just going to do this to all the pieces, some places maybe a little more, some not as much, and just until I'm happy with how it looks. Okay, so when you've got all your sanding done, you should be left with something that looks similar to this. I'm just wiping off any extra dust, and we're going to go on to the last sort of aging step here. So let me get that one out of the way. So now you're going to use, I'm just got this medium, I think it's actually what it's called, medium gray by Folk Art. It's older than, wow, it's old and it's not in good shape. But because of the technique we're using, it's a good way to use up some old paint, we're going to do a dry brush technique. So I don't care that it's kind of dried up as long as it's not too dried up. So I'm going to put the paint on my brush. I'm going to wipe most of it off. And then I'm just going to follow sort of like I would be following the grain. And I'll probably do kind of more on the edges where it would be weathered. And just as, again, personal preference, as much or as little as you want. Now I will go back into just what I wiped off to start, so I don't necessarily have to get more paint every time. But this is one of those ways, one of the reasons you can keep some of your old dried out paints. It's perfect for this sort of a technique. And I'm just going to go over all the pieces that I may even do a touch, oops, on my skewers with the gray. And if it gets too dry, you can go ahead and dip your brush in some water, but just wipe most of it off. You do not want a wet brush. You want a dry brush with very little paint on it. And that's going to help it look like it's been out in the weather in the sea air. Now that I've got them all aged the way I want, now we're going to start putting it together. Now this will be the top painted one. I'm going to start with that just because I find that that's going to be easier. And I'm going to use the 2 glue method because while we're going to use, I got this Gorilla wood glue, which is perfect. Whatever kind of wood glue you have would be fine. But in order to sort of keep it there while I am using that glue, waiting for that to dry, I am just going to use my beat up old sad glue gun. So I will start by putting the wood glue. I'm going to put these in each corner. So I'm going to put the wood glue in the corners and a little bit on the bottom. So I'm going to start by finding the paintbrush that I use for my glue. One moment. So I'm just going to dip it in the glue. I just find I have more control and I don't get more than I need. So I'm going to decide which way I want it to face. I don't think it really matters a whole bunch. I'm going to paint a generous amount of glue on those corners. And then I'm going to do it sort of in, I hope you can see. Like that. And then I'm going to take my hot glue and just put a dab on the bottom to hold it while everything else dries. And I'm going to do that to all 4 of these. And then I am going to let it dry overnight before I put the top on, just to make sure it's good and strong. But you're going to, when this is all dry, you're going to flip it and do the same thing. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this now, and we are going to put it together, but before we put the other, I guess the bottom on in this case, like that, before we do that, we are going to use our skewers. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from one corner to the other in an X, and I'm going to use just hot glue for this, but we're only going to do 3 sides. We're not going to do the 4th side because we want to be able to get our candle in and out to change your batteries if you're using a fake one, or you know, to change it out if you're using a real one. So we're going to do that to 3 of the 4 sides, and I've just got my plier cutters and I'll just cut them to size. So, and I think hot glue will work just fine for this. If you want to, you can certainly go ahead and reinforce it with wood glue. But I'm thinking that the hot glue for this particular thing will do just fine. And although in theory they should all be exactly the same size, being dollar store, you know, sometimes things are off a little bit. So I'm going to do this to each one individually rather than use one as a template. Normally I would just do that, but just in case, we're going to do it this way. There we go. I forgot to turn my glue gun on, so I had to wait for that to heat up. So just putting a dab of glue. Sorry, my whole system here is a bit of a mess. I'm going to start in the bottom corner and put one at the top. And as I said, I'm going to repeat that for 3 sides. So now you should be left with something that looks like this. So now we're going to put the bottom on, and we're going to do it the same way we put the top on. So I'm going to do again the 2 glue method just to make sure it stays really well. So again, going back to the Gorilla Glue, the wood glue, you can use any wood glue that you have on hand. Just going to get my brush that I use for glue, and I'm going to get a fairly generous amount and do the corners. And then I'm going to do it to all 4 just because of the way it's going to go in this time. Alright, and then again back to our glue gun. I'm going to put the glue on the ends of the, I guess, square dowel? I don't know what else to call them. Just like that. And I'm just going to fit it on, just like that. And then I'm going to turn it the other way, just so the weight is pressing down on there, and we are going to let that dry. So just to finish it off, I've got this candle. It was just something I had in my stash, but I thought it kind of looked like beach sand, and happens to smell really good too, not that you can tell that. So I'm just going to wrap some twine around it. Whoops. Just tie a loose bow. Shoelace knot. I'm just going to double knot it. Actually, instead of doing the bow, I think I'm actually going to trim it down a little bit here. And I've got my shells stashed, and some of these I picked up off the beach myself. Some of them came from Dollarama. So, you know, just whatever you got going on in your own stash. And I think I'm just going to add a couple of seashells at the end of the strings here, just with some hot glue. Whoops. just some hot glue on there. Just going to put them on the ends of these strings. This shouldn't be this hard, honestly. Okay. I feel very uncoordinated at the moment. There we go. In there. I don't know if you can see that, and I will do a better picture here in a minute. And I'm just going to put some of the seashells around it in the bottom, and then I will show you the final product when I've got that all done.